Welcome to the Honest Health Podcast with your host, Jeffrey Burke. Honest Health brings you the brightest minds in the natural products industry, as well as athletes and entertainers. Jeff will keep you entertained and informed while educating on how to be successful on your healthy journeys. Now, here's your host, Jeffrey Burke.
Hello and welcome back to the Honest Health Podcast. My name is Jeffrey Burke. I'm so glad you're here. If you're tuning in for the first time, welcome to my new platform. If you're back with me again, and some of you have been with me for well over 4 decades, welcome back. Please tell your friends, bring everybody here. And remember, follow us, like us, all those buttons, they're all new to me. Press them all. And bring your friends here because this is a platform to bring you up-to-date information, honest and truthful information, some things you might have known, some things you're going to be reminded of, and sometimes we've forgotten a lot of things. So I'm bringing you the best minds in the industry, and I think you're really going to enjoy today. Now, remember, every month I call out a chain of stores or an individual mom and pop kind of individual soul store as my retailer of the month. For September this month, I am calling out a store that's in Centralia, Washington called Good Health Nutrition Center. The owner-operator's name is Julie Shaffley, and she is with me today. A little bit of a background. She grew up on a dairy farm in southwest Minnesota. After college, moved out to Washington State to work in one of the first health food stores in Washington. She's been in the nutrition industry for 43 years. Wow, just like me. She has owned and operated Good Health Nutrition Center in Centralia, Washington for 34 years. She's a nutritional therapist, frequently speaking on nutrition and health, and not like other successful store owners, she does it all the daily stuff, helping the customers with their health needs, doing the book work, encouraging their employees, ordering merchandise, dusting the shelf, answering the phones, straightening the shelves, basically doing all the things that need to be done. We're going to talk about it today. I want to talk about her store, her relationship with all the customers, what's changing in the industry. So sit back and enjoy. I think you're going to love this. Hey, Julie.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for taking the time out today. And thank you for being my September Retailer of the Month. I have had the pleasure to work with you and your staff. I've done trainings there. I love your store. I love your employees. I love your philosophy. And I think that's probably many of the things that has added up to such great longevity.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. And I'm honored to have the honor of being the store of the month. Thank you very, very much. I feel very, very honored.
Let me ask you a question. Let's kind of start like at the very beginning. Do you think that you, like me, just had the passion bug for the industry very young, and it was just something that we just kind of needed to move forward with? Because with me, that's kind of what it was.
For me, it was, I was introduced to it by coming out to Washington State when I was in high school, because my sister-in-law's parents were the original owners of one of the first health food stores in Washington State. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed it, working during the summers, doing just the odd jobs around the health food store. And now this is back in the 70s. So it was not, let's say, an accepted business. It was new. It was misunderstood. It was different. And I enjoyed it. I went to college and studied psychology and music. And when I finished, people weren't knocking down my door to have a psychology music person. And I was invited to come out to Washington to manage the health food store. And I did. And I realized how much I loved business. I love the world of business, and I love nutrition. I love trying to find that one key, that one piece of the puzzle that makes everything else work. It's always a mystery. It's a challenge. And I didn't realize until I really became more engulfed in the industry how much I loved it.
I feel the same way. I started out, and I was actually very, very young, and I started out in Los Angeles with Dr. Earl Mendel.
Oh,
And I ended up running his chain of stores called Great Earth Vitamins, and we had
hmm.
many, many, many stores. And I mean, I got the bug very early, and I just absolutely loved it. And he made the mistake of giving me a microphone, and that was it. And I never gave that back, So here we are, 40 some years later, and being on the air for 42 years before the podcast. And this is just another platform. To me, I love this because I actually get to interact with my guests, and see each other. I mean,
Yes.
when I had hair, I used to have bad hair days, so now I don't, but it's nice to know that, we're able to see each other. And I just think that it adds to the passion and, the integrity of the interview. And I think it's wonderful.
Yes.
So let me ask you a question. What is it that you think that you do that sets your store apart, that's made you successful? Let's name one thing.
The one thing would be the genuine interest for my customers. I it, the store is all about the customer. We're here to serve the customer, and I've told my employees many times that I don't pay them; the customer pays their paycheck. I just sign it. And every customer, every person has a story, is an individual. They just want to be heard, understood, and respected. And that's what I feel my duty is, and also my passion. I love people. I love talking to people, and I want to help people. So customer service sets us apart from every other store. Um, our product mix is not a surprise. I mean, anybody, any store can copy our product mix. That's not hard at all. But what they can't copy or have a hard time copying is our customer service and our education. That to me is one of the biggest things that separates the health food industry from the big box places, is that our education, which then helps our customers.
And to your point, I think that the passion is there, and I don't think that you could teach people to be passionate.
No.
You can teach people how to do a job, how to do a thing, how to do an act, how to do a task, which is anybody could learn
Hmm.
things. But you can't make people love what they do, and you can't make them enjoy it, and you can't make them want to come to work, and you can't make them want to just really work with people and get excited when something's new and a new finding and a new breakthrough. And those are kind of things that we love to learn because we love to talk about them. and
Right.
and those are things that I've always loved. What I don't like, what's going on right now in the industry, is the disappearance of education. It
Oh,
seems like a lot of the companies have cut back on their education departments, and I think to myself, really, the whole idea of having a place where people can go is so they can learn, so they can be educated, so they can have a conversation, not how it relates to everybody else, but how it relates to them individually, and create that wonderful relationship with the people that are there. I had people that, were in my stores with me and traveled. Many of them were in LA when I first started. They moved out to Vegas. I waited on them, their kids, for all those years. And they stuck with you because they knew they could have a direct conversation and an honest answer and an open communication without ever feeling intimidated. And I think that's what sets stores like yours apart.
and education is so, so important. You and I have been in the industry for over 40 years, and
Mhm.
we know what major, major milestones and science and discoveries that have come along. And it's our duty to keep up with that. There are so many different companies out there that want us to sell their product, but
Mhm.
I feel the duty and the responsibility to my employees and my customers to pick out what is best, the highest quality, the not necessarily it's going to be the least expensive, but I I feel I'm the gatekeeper, and that
Yep.
all comes down to education. So I feel that it's really important for companies to educate us on their product. And also, we need to take the responsibility of reading the different magazines that have the new science in them,
Mhm.
and compare, contrast. That's our responsibility. And I love the companies that share their science, their studies, and they make the product. They produce the products that go with the science. They include the amount of a supplement or an ingredient that will make a change rather
Mhm.
than just making the label look pretty.
Yeah.
And that's something that I feel is a disservice to the customer when lutein is a good example. Just putting a smattering of lutein, it makes the label look really nice, and you can
Yeah.
say this is for XYZ, but it's not going to be enough to elicit any kind of response.
And to that point, which is very important, thank you for making it. We live in a world today where people are information driven, but
Hmm.
we're also dealing with people that are impatient, like I've never seen before. They
No.
want the miraculous miracles to happen overnight, even though
Yes.
these problems have been occurring along with, let's say, lifestyle choices and bad
Hmm.
habits for years or decades, but they still want to see a result and a change almost overnight. And I think what happens is when people cut corners with their nutritional supplements, I think what ends up happening is they end up not getting results, and
Hmm.
then their impatience takes over, and then they give up on that product. But rather than just going back to the store and saying, do you have something that's better, something that's more digestible, more absorbable, stronger? Rather than doing that, they just say nothing works, and
Hmm.
then they walk away from it, and they end up losing someone who could have seen great benefits if they would just have had a conversation with someone in a store where people are educated.
Exactly. The conversation, the getting to know your customer as a person, as an individual, and knowing what product is best for your customer, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily for your bottom line, but for your customer. That's why I don't like commission sales. I want my employees to do what's best for each and every customer, and that takes a long time of a, a relationship, building a relationship with your customers, because building a relationship, you also build trust. Trust is not a right, it is a gift, and you have to earn it. And I don't rest on my laurels of, well, I've been here this many years, of course they can trust me. No, I have to prove that every day.
Yep.
And that is something that I treasure, is the trust that my customers and my community has given me. So that is so important. And like I was saying about price, that is one of our biggest hurdles right now. But as I tell my customers and my employees, is that the most expensive supplement is the one that doesn't work. And it is also the one that has synthetic ingredients in it that you're not digesting, or that is just sitting in the cabinet. That is your most expensive supplement. I feel that supplementation is an investment in your life, your lifestyle, your longevity, your family. It's an
Yep.
investment. Is it going to happen overnight? No, it's
No.
not. But also, you didn't get to where you are today by just making a decision yesterday. This is, like you had said, this is lifelong, and it's not going to turn around in a couple of hours. So
You know,
it's
I
a challenge.
when I go to stores, usually after I do a training and stuff, I'll hang out and I'll be on the floor with people, employees, and interject in sales and help them talk to customers. And this stuck out so much. The very first time I came to see you, we did an earlier morning training.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, when the store opened after that, you had customers coming in. And I was just hanging out in the store. And I remember Greg was there and he was doing his thing, talking with you. And I was on the floor and I was kind of like listening to conversations, but they didn't need me. I mean, they were like, they knew exactly what to say. They were having great conversations, asking wonderful questions. And I was just like, they got this. And it stuck with me. And when it came to choosing, my first independent store for my retailer of the month, you came to mind.
Oh,
And I
well,
want to
thank
thank you
you.
for that because you've got a great staff that love what they do and they're passionate and they're educated and so knowledgeable. And that really is what makes the difference. That adds to the reputation. And I think that we all kind of like nothing better than somebody coming back and saying, "Oh my goodness, I'm doing so much better. Thank you for making that recommendation. I love that." That's like a buzz for me.
That is the most rewarding thing of all the years is someone coming back and saying, you helped me. It's like, oh, yes, it's validation. And it is, I feel that's my passion for life. And it is, this has been so rewarding, so rewarding. People have asked me, how can you be at the same job for 34 years? I'm like, I can't believe it's been 34 years
Mhm.
because this isn't a job. I love what I do.
Yeah.
Absolutely love what I do. And I love my employees and my customers. I'm throwing around that love word a lot. But when it comes to employees, you had said earlier about you can teach people about supplements and how to sell. You cannot teach them customer service
No.
and teach them a willingness and a desire to help people and to talk to people. That I can teach them anything about supplementation, and having educators like you come in. I can do that, but you have to hire. I look for people to hire that have that drive, compassion, and the willingness to listen. That is probably one of the biggest things is to listen.
Now, being active in your community is very
Mhm.
important, and I think it creates even more relationships. Besides doing what you do, you're also very active in your community.
When my husband and I first purchased the store, it was very, very important to us to support the community that supports us. I mean,
Mhm,
that to me is integral.
mhm.
Without the community support, we wouldn't be here. It's a symbiotic relationship. And it's very, very important to go out to your community. I'm not from Centralia. And prior to buying the store, we lived up in Olympia, which is about 20 miles away from here. So we moved down here to support the community. And I became active in service groups. I would highly recommend this to anybody that in any type of business that is opening a store or any service, anything like that. Get to know your community, and let the community know you. Join the Chamber of Commerce, a service organization, anything like that. Get involved with your community. First of all, it helps you to get a very great network of
Yes.
people and services. It allows you to know people on a very personal level rather than from the store or from a business. They get to know me as Julie Shaffley rather than Julie Shaffley from the Good Health Nutrition Center. Uh, so it's very personal, and we've gotten some fabulous friendships, and you can see and you can help your community grow and prosper. So yes, very much so. Get involved with your community.
And what are you doing now outside the store in the community?
Oh goodness. Well, I'm also an elected official. Ooh, I am a port commissioner, and so a port here in Washington State is a taxing district that for us it's more of an industrial district. We do not have any water that like Olympia has a port, Seattle has a port, Tacoma. We do not. We are an industrial area. So um, there are three of us commissioners, and we help to formulate and introduce different companies to our community. These are large companies, so we are introducing family living wage jobs. We are introducing more tax base, and it is just prosperous for our community. So I feel it's totally different than running a health food store, but
Of
yet
course.
it still incorporates the same premise. And it all is for the health of the community, either individually or as the whole community. So I just feel very honored to be able to serve, and I love it. Again, it's business on a different level, and it's exciting. It really is.
What would you say is something that has changed with the customer base over the last decade or so?
The customer base. My customer base has become younger. When I first started in the industry, our customer base was older. It was probably 50s on up. Now we are seeing more of the younger, the 20s, 30s. Also, they are very, very well informed. They are much more well informed. They are much more, they keep us on our toes. They question us. They read the science, and they want to know what is best for them individually and for their families. Uh, and also, we're working more with prevention rather than if there is a problem, trying to overcome a problem. We're looking more at younger, trying to prevent a problem in the future. But definitely more well educated, more well informed, which I think is fabulous.
Here's your question. Obviously,
Mhm.
we back up over the last 5 years or 4.5 years or whatever. The pandemic
Oof.
was crazy. I was actually traveling with Greg up there, and we literally came out of a dinner meeting and they were boarding up stores, and we had no idea it was happening. We really
Wow.
didn't learn much until we actually got home,
Uh-huh.
and then the world shut down like 3 days later. So, my question is, did anything good come out of the pandemic for you?
Oh, goodness, yes. Goodness, yes. We saw so many new customers that came into the health food store that asked questions, that wanted to know our opinion. And I have a very firm rule in the store. There is no politics. We are middle of the road, no politics whatsoever. But I saw so many people coming in that had never stepped foot into a health food store, wanting to know what they could do to help with their immune system, to help with all of this. There were so many things that came out that were very surprising to me, and really uh, concerning. We saw so many more young people with anxiety
Oh yeah.
because the schools were shut down. They were the kids had to learn one on one on basically on a screen, and the anxiety was rampant. That was probably one of the saddest things that I learned. Um, we had people that overreacted. That was one of the things that really surprised me. I would have to, I never thought I would do this as a retailer, trying to talk someone out of not buying excessive amounts of product or excessive potencies. It's like, no, you can't do this. This is, just because it's natural does not mean it's not harmful at large doses. So that was one of the things that really surprised me, is having to talk people off the edge and saying, okay, let's use common sense. This is what we can do. This is what you can do. And just going back to the basics, telling people, go outside, breathe the fresh air. Don't, continue to be locked into a house or a room. Go out, of course, by yourself if you need to, but go out and see that life is still going on. The trees are still turning green. The birds are still singing. Breathe and enjoy nature. I think that was one of the things that we were very good at, is kind of calming people, saying everything is going to be okay.
I think it was driven a lot by misinformation, confusion, frustration, and fear.
Oh, yes.
And I think the fear in many cases was very misplaced.
Mm-hmm.
And, I have a lot of friends and friends of friends that have kids, and all of a sudden they were not only working from home, but trying to homeschool. And they were just like, oh my God, Jeff, I don't know any of this stuff. I was
Right.
terrible when I was in school and I can't do this, and they were frustrated and they were
Mm-hmm.
getting anxious and they were all depressed. And it was just not a good time. Someone asked me this question. That's why I was asking you the other day, did anything good come out of the pandemic? And I said, I think it made people a lot more aware
Uh-huh.
about how much we have been ignoring our health and well-being,
Yes.
how far back on the back burner we have put our own health and health care, and
Mm-hmm.
how much we've taken for granted that everything was perfect and we never have to worry about anything. And we got a little bit of a lesson there.
Right. And another thing that, which was interesting, a lot of people who had not delved into cooking, all of a
Oh,
sudden, all of the restaurants were closed.
oh yeah.
Up here in Washington, all the restaurants were closed. So for food, people then had to start cooking. We saw a lot of people coming in for flour and different types of flours and cooking ingredients. So because they were trying things, they said, we're home. We have time to make their own bread or whatever. So they were trying different things and cooking, which I think is great because I love to cook. Um, but as a retailer, what I also found out is that as an independent retailer, we had the capacity and the flexibility to pivot, to see what our customers were asking for, to see what we could bring in that would help with our customers, like people starting to bake. We were then able to bring in ingredients that were hard to find anywhere else, because we had the flexibility to pivot on a dime and say, okay, sure, we can bring this in next week, rather than waiting for a week or 2 weeks. That was one of the advantages we had and have as an independent, is that I can make the decision immediately, and then we can service our customers. That was probably one of the biggest things, and I enjoyed it. It was totally different. I think being uh, a calming influence was probably one of the main things that we provided. Telling people, you're going to be okay. This is going to be fine. And also, yeah, the kids, the parents going, I couldn't get math before. Now I'm trying to teach modern math. Are you kidding? Um,
It's true.
Talking them down too. It's like, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. We'll get through this. I had lots of phone calls. Just people wanted to hear an adult's voice and
Oh,
wanted
man.
to just hear, you're going to be okay.
Did the supply chain affect you? Because you had to get, I think
Yes.
a lot of people had to get creative.
Yes, yes. The supply chain was a challenge because they were being affected by COVID also.
Yeah.
In the distribution centers, if one person gets sick, they're off the chain. So yes, it was a challenge. We tried to do as best we could. I know the companies were doing the best they could also.
True.
This was the pandemic and the economy was a really good filter to show the weaknesses and the strengths in any given business, whether it be a distribution center, whether it be a manufacturer, or whether it be a store. We had to see where our weaknesses were and where our strengths were. And we had to capitalize on our strengths and support our weaknesses. So a lot of companies didn't come back from that because their weaknesses overtook their strengths, which is unfortunate. But it also showed the companies that were strong and were able to weather these economic times and are still being able to weather and adapt. I think that was the biggest thing, is adapting to the unknown. And a lot of people were able to do it. A lot of businesses were able to do it and make them stronger.
It was an interesting time, and I traveled a lot even
Mm-hmm.
during the pandemic, and it was crazy to be on a plane with four people, and I never really knew, what I was going to come into in all the different states and cities. It was all different. The mentalities were all different, and but there were many places where the stores were not even allowed to stay open. Out here in Las Vegas, most of the health food stores, the vitamin stores were closed. They closed them down. They
Right.
left open the big chains that had food. You were open through the whole thing, right?
I was open through the whole thing because we do have a large portion of our store is also food. So
Hmm.
we were considered essential,
Thank
which
goodness.
I felt was, a boon for us. We also, and there again, this was a great opportunity when the restaurants started opening or when they were open for takeout only. I told my employees I would go to one of the restaurants and buy lunch for all of us here because the restaurants needed the business and
Yeah.
it was a gift for our employees. So this is something too. It's like I said, the relationship, the symbiotic relationship, help someone else out and it will come back to you.
I love it. I am so happy to have you here today, and I know I'll be seeing you in my travels again. I'll be coming up to Centralia, so I'll be able to give you a hug. Do me a favor, leave
Yes.
everybody with a thought for the day, something that's important to you that you'd like to share that means something to you.
Oh, a thought for the day. My my philosophy is that I always pray. Every morning I pray that I can be a blessing to someone today and have someone be a blessing to me today. It's your actions, your words, your response to people can make their day and you don't even know it. So be good to people. Be kind, be respectful, be happy, and be kind, respectful and happy for yourself also. And
I love that.
it'll radiate out.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. My guest today, Julie Shaffley. She's the owner of Good Health Nutrition up in Centralia, Washington. She is my September Retailer of the Month. And with darn good reason. I want to thank you all for being here today, listening to our conversation. This is the Honest Health Podcast with Jeffrey Burke. That's me. Remember, if you're listening in, click and touch and subscribe and like and, all those buttons, push them all. And bring your friends here. The easiest way to find the show, go to my webpage, drjeffreyburke.com. Tap on the Honest Health logo. It'll take you to Spotify, so you can listen to the show when you're on the treadmill, in the kitchen, driving, whatever. You can also tap on the YouTube logo, and then you can watch the interview and, kind of be drawn in that way. I think some people like audio, some people like video. I think it depends on where you are and what you're doing, but both of them are available. Julie, thank you so much for being here today. It was an honor.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It was an honor to be here.
Thank you so much. I hope you'll come back and see me again.
I would love to.
Thank you. You guys have a wonderful day and be well, stay healthy, and God bless.
Stay tuned for more information from the Honest Health Podcast with Jeffrey Burke. And make sure to check back often for interviews and conversations from the guests we all want to hear from. I'm John the Announcer. Thanks for listening.